Silence has a way of protecting secrets, sometimes for years, sometimes until the moment someone closest decides to look closer. This story is not about a killer in the traditional sense. No bodies were found, no crime scene tape stretched across a suburban street. But what was uncovered inside one quiet Michigan home revealed a different kind of violence, one that leaves lifelong scars. One that often hides behind normal routines, steady jobs, and trusted roles in the community. This is the story of a wife who thought her marriage was unraveling because of infidelity and instead uncovered something far darker, something criminal, something that would permanently destroy the life her husband had built. This is the case of Mark Labelle. At first, there was nothing dramatic about the suspicion, no screaming arguments, no sudden disappearances, no obvious red flags that screamed danger, just a feeling, a quiet, persistent sense that something wasn't right. Mark Labelle was 35 years old, a maintenance worker for Cedar Springs Public Schools in Michigan. By most outward measures, he lived an unremarkable life. A stable job, a marriage, a routine that blended seamlessly into the background of everyday American normalcy. But marriages often fracture in silence. Mark's wife began to notice changes, subtle shifts in behavior that many partners would recognize. More guarded with his phone, more defensive when questioned, more emotionally distant, she suspected what countless spouses before her have suspected. Cheating, that suspicion would lead her to search for answers. And in doing so, she would expose a secret that law enforcement, digital forensic experts, and prosecutors would later describe as deeply disturbing. When she accessed Mark's phone, she wasn't prepared for what she would see. Not messages, not photos of another woman, not evidence of an affair. Instead, she found content that immediately crossed a line legally, morally, and emotionally. The material was so alarming that she did not confront her husband. She did not attempt to rationalize it. She did not hesitate. She contacted the Kent County Sheriff's Department. That decision would change everything. Law enforcement took the report seriously from the very beginning. Cases involving digital exploitation material demand urgency, not only because of the severity of the crime, but because of the potential for ongoing harm. Every image represents a victim, a real child, a real moment of abuse. Detectives obtained warrants and seized Mark Labelle's electronic devices, including his phone and laptop. What they found went far beyond what his wife had initially discovered. A forensic examination of his laptop revealed more than 100 disturbing images. Some of the files had already been flagged by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, an organization that works closely with law enforcement to identify, track, and rescue victims of child exploitation. These were not accidental downloads, not misclicks, not one isolated file. The volume alone told a different story. During questioning, Mark Labelle did not deny the evidence. He admitted to having what he described as an addiction. He consented to a full forensic examination of all his electronic devices. Admissions like these often come with an attempt to soften responsibility, framing criminal behavior as compulsion rather than choice. But addiction does not erase harm, it does not negate intent, and it does not absolve accountability. Investigators continued building the case, documenting the material, tracing its origins, and ensuring proper identification procedures were followed. Every step mattered, every detail mattered, because cases like this are scrutinized heavily in court. As the investigation unfolded, attention turned toward Mark's place of employment. Cedar Springs Public Schools confirmed that Labelle worked as a maintenance employee. He did not work directly with students. There was no evidence presented that he had access to children through his job. Still, the school district acted swiftly. As soon as administrators became aware of the investigation, Mark Labelle was placed on administrative leave. The district issued statements emphasizing student safety and cooperation with law enforcement. In cases involving crimes of this nature, institutions often face public scrutiny not just for what happened, but for how they respond. The school district's actions were meant to establish distance and reassurance, but for parents and community members, fear doesn't disappear with press releases. The legal process moved forward. Prosecutors charged Mark Labelle with aggravated possession of illegal material, a serious felony offense under Michigan law. Rather than taking the case to trial, Labelle entered a plea of no contest. A no contest plea does not admit guilt outright, but it accepts conviction and sentencing as if a guilty plea had been entered. For victims, it often means avoiding the trauma of testimony. For defendants, it can reduce exposure to harsher sentencing outcomes. In the eyes of the court, the result was the same. Mark Labelle was convicted. Sentencing in cases involving child exploitation material reflects the gravity of the offense, the volume of material, prior history, and perceived risk to the public. Labelle was sentenced to prison time and is currently incarcerated at Newberry Correctional Facility in Michigan. His earliest parole eligibility date is April 2027. His maximum sentence extends to April 2035. That means years behind bars. Years of supervision, years of restrictions that will follow him even if he is eventually released. But sentences alone cannot undo the harm caused. What makes this case particularly unsettling is not only the crime itself, but how it was discovered. There was no tip from an internet watchdog group, no proactive confession, no external investigation that randomly exposed the truth. It was uncovered by the person closest to him, the woman who shared his home, his life, his trust. Her decision to report what she found prevented further harm. It interrupted a cycle that could have continued indefinitely, and yet her role often remains unnamed, unseen, unspoken. Partners of offenders frequently experience a unique form of trauma, one that includes shock, betrayal, guilt, and social isolation. They didn't commit the crime, but they are often left to carry its emotional aftermath. Cases like this raise difficult questions. How many people around offenders never know what's happening? How many warning signs are dismissed as normal relationship issues? How many secrets exist behind locked screens and passwords? The digital age has changed the nature of crime. It has made access easier, distribution faster, detection more complex, but it has also created digital footprints that, once discovered, are difficult to erase. In Mark Labelle's case, those footprints told a story he could no longer control. There is a tendency, in true crime narratives, to focus heavily on the offender. their psychology, their motivations, their downfall, but this story demands a different focus. Because at the center of every image found on those devices was a child, a victim whose identity may never be publicly known, but whose suffering is real and permanent. And beyond those victims stands another truth. This crime was stopped not by chance, but by moral courage. A wife chose to act, to report, to protect others, even when doing so shattered her own life. Today, Mark Labelle remains incarcerated. His name is publicly tied to his crime, his future permanently altered, but the broader lesson of this case extends beyond one man. It speaks to vigilance, to accountability, to the importance of taking uncomfortable discoveries seriously, no matter who they implicate. Because silence protects abusers, and exposure, however painful, protects victims, this case does not end with closure. There is no resolution that feels complete, only consequences, only accountability, only the reminder that the most dangerous secrets are often hidden in plain sight. And sometimes, the difference between continued harm and justice comes down to one person choosing not to look away. This has been a Silent Authority documentary.